Good morning. Please have a seat. I am Judy Lambeth, class of 1973, and chair of the Hollins Board of Trustees. On behalf of the board, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the inauguration of Pareena G. Lawrence as our university's 12th president. As we gather today to mark this historic occasion, we also join in commemorating the lives of those whose tremendous work and sacrifices have ensured that Hollins has thrived for 176 years. I am privileged to present the descendants of our founder, Charles Lewis Koch, who not only led Hollins with distinction, but was also a pioneer in women's education and empowerment. Would the members of the Koch family who are here with us today please stand as they are able and be recognized. But we know that no single person was responsible for the establishment of this institution in 1842, and we want to salute and honor, in addition to the initial faculty, the mid-19th century enslaved, and others whose labor ensured Hollins' survival during its early years. We remain grateful to the members of the Hollins community, formerly known as the Oldfields community. They, along with our founder, helped us become the institution we are today. Descendants of the Hollins community families have joined us this morning so that we may honor their ancestors, and I ask them please to stand as they are able so that we may pay tribute to their contributions. Pareena Lawrence today officially becomes part of a select group of remarkable women and men who have guided this institution with wisdom, compassion, and foresight. I am pleased to announce that several of our former leaders are here with us this morning to celebrate President Lawrence's inauguration. Would our distinguished past presidents stand as I call your name? Walter Rugaber, 2001 through 2002. Paula Brownlee, 1981 through 1990. Janet Guthrie, 1996 through 2001. Nancy Oliver Gray, 2005 through 2017. To everyone who is in attendance today, including those who are watching via our live stream on social media, Hollins University is delighted you have chosen to be part of this special day, and we are all profoundly grateful to have President Lawrence lead us into the future. Let me now call on Hollins graduate and distinguished trustee, the Reverend Dr. Cynthia Hale, who was a member of the Presidential Search Committee. Cynthia founded the Ray of Hope Church 32 years ago in Decatur, Georgia, which has grown to be one of the country's largest and most dynamic congregations. Under her leadership, this church is a powerful force for transformative change through its initiatives in housing, healthcare, and education. Ebony Magazine named Cynthia one of the 100 most influential African Americans. No surprise to any of us. Please join me in welcoming Cynthia to the podium.
Pray with me. Gracious and all-wise God, We thank you for the gift of this day. Today marks a new beginning in the life of our beloved university, founded 175 years ago. Today is Inauguration Day for our 12th president, Dr. Pareena G. Lawrence. Given the realities we face in higher education, you knew exactly what we would need to thrive as a university in these uncertain times. From attendance at a girls' school in India to the University of Delhi, from earning a PhD at Purdue to becoming a full professor at the University of Minnesota. From provost and dean at Augustana College to the presidency of Hollins University. You have used every moment, every experience to help shape her mind, heart, values, and convictions that are essential for her leadership here at Hollins. We are grateful for her belief in the value of a liberal arts education, her passion for women's education, her collegiality with faculty, her keen and strategic mind, her tenacity in getting things done, her fearlessness in the face of opposition, and her ability to walk with students, taking great delight in them. Oh God, we thank you for your gracious gift to us of Dr. Lawrence. Now, God, as we embark upon this journey with her, give us the courage to follow where she leads, to dream bold and audacious dreams for Hollins with her, and work tirelessly to see these dreams come true. We want to continually empower young women to live lives of consequence and make a difference in our world. It's in your strong and mighty name that we pray. Amen.
Along with inaugurating a new president today, we also have the privilege of recognizing one of our most esteemed alumni. I would like to invite Alex Trower, class of 1986, member of the Hollins Board of Trustees, to come to the podium and assist me in honoring someone who is very dear to us at Hollins. Would Elizabeth Hall Libby McDonald, class of 1962, please come forward. Come right on up, please. Libby, your incredible dedication and unwavering belief in our mission has meant so much to Hollins. As a symbol of our profound appreciation, we are privileged to award you this honorary degree.
Libby, with an enduring quality of quiet yet effective leadership and service, you have made an indelible impression on your alma mater and so many of the other educational and cultural institutions you've served. Following in the footsteps of your grandmother, Elizabeth Moss Hall, class of 1902, you enrolled at Hollins, and it was here that the sparkle in your eye and your positive spirit has since captivated all of us and shone through in keeping with your membership in Ada. You left Hollins after 2 years to study in Florence, Italy, but you've remained steadfastly devoted ever since to this campus and her students. Most especially, you and your husband, James, have done more than anyone in recent years to enhance the arts and sciences at Hollins. Your extraordinary generosity in support of such initiatives as the restoration of the Hollins Physical Theater, growing the theater and playwriting programs, and renovating the Dana Science Building, which was rededicated yesterday, is nothing short of transformational. Hollins has also benefited from your insight over the past decade as a member of the Board of Trustees, where you exhibit that rare and wonderful capacity to ask the right questions at the right time. You have given of yourself remarkably in your hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, where you have helped lead organizations ranging from the St. Louis Art Museum and Missouri History Museum, to the Friends of the Botanical Garden and the St. Louis Country Day School. You have also served with distinction as a trustee of the Churchill School in New Jersey, the Purnell School, in Missouri, and the Purnell School in New Jersey, and Mary Institute, where you graduated after your studies at Hollins. You served as president of Mary Institute's Alumni Association and are a recipient of that school's Medal of Honor. Today, Libby, in recognition of all your achievements, Hollins University is privileged to bestow upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
We're about to make you president, actually. All right. Antonio, could you please join us?
As president of the Student Government Association, it is my privilege to extend a welcome to you all and to President Lawrence on this day of her inauguration on behalf of the student body. From the first few minutes that I met Pareena, it was clear to me that she already belonged here in our Hollins community. In the past semester that she has been here, those feelings and that sense has only grown stronger. President Lawrence can be found not just working hard in the Koch building, but also taking her first step with the senior class, climbing Tinker Mountain with joy and enthusiasm, which we know can be a hard task, playing board games with first years in Tinker, attending roundtable meetings and working with student leaders, and on a practice with the cross-country team, which I find particularly impressive. She is admired by students, not just for her efforts to truly connect with us, but for her strong dedication to preserving the spirit of Hollins while pushing us to grow in new and positive directions. Even though it feels like she's been with us from the start, we are full of joy to welcome President Lawrence to our community today. Thank you for joining us in this celebration of our beloved 12th president, Pareena Lawrence. And Pareena, you have all the love and support of the Hollins students. Good luck to you. We are so happy that you're here.
Good morning. As chair of the faculty, I am honored to welcome Dr. Pareena Lawrence as our 12th president. In the few months I have known her, I've been deeply impressed with her leadership. She has gotten to know the Hollins that we are and the Hollins that we have been, but she hasn't been afraid to share her vision of what we need to do to meet the challenges ahead. She understands the value and the work of the faculty, and she is funny, warm, and authentic. On behalf of the faculty, Dr. Lawrence, welcome to Hollins. We are very excited to see where you take us.
Good morning. My name is Isaiah Sweetenberg. I'm a groundskeeper here at Hollins. I'm also proud descendant of people enslaved here on this campus years ago that helped the Institute of Higher Learning prosper. So I am privileged to join today to represent the staff as we celebrate an exciting new chapter in our history. the inauguration of President Lawrence as our 12th president. President Lawrence, on behalf of 214 staff members here at the college, we congratulate you on your achievements, and with tremendous success in the years to come, we hope you love this campus. Welcome to Hollins.
Hi, everybody. As president of the Hollins Alumni Board and the lustrous Alumni Association we are privileged to represent, I am honored today to offer to our 12th president a grand total of 19,307 inaugural congratulations. That is the number on record in our alumni office of attendees at Hollins, graduates, and graduate students on whose behalf I speak. As their representative, it is my enormous privilege to celebrate you, Dr. Pareena G. Lawrence, on this splendid Inauguration Day. Know that our heartfelt greetings come with the assurance that you too are now a cherished member of the vast green and gold community that has been educated, influenced, and inspired by this magnificent institution of learning. So welcome, Pareena Lawrence, to Hollins from every last one of us.
Good morning, everybody. It is an extreme honor and a privilege for me on behalf of my colleagues on Roanoke City Council. I want to ask them to stand if they would real quickly. Those who are here from Roanoke City Council. I'm pleased to welcome Hollins University new president, Dr. Pareena Lawrence. Doctor, welcome to the star city of Roanoke. I believe it won't take you long to really realize how valuable and how progressive and vibrant and unique our community is. Even though I was talking with Todd, your husband, and he's almost convincing me to go to Minnesota to do some philosophy. But our natural beauty, quality of life, and strong economic growth is a magnet for families and businesses to make their home in our community. And we look forward to working with you. So on behalf of Roanoke City Council and the city of Roanoke, we're known as the Star City. But today, I want to present to you this star that says, you are a star in the Star City today.
a heroine of mine, Indra Nooyi. I had the chance to learn from and work with Indra during her dozen years as an extraordinary trustee of Yale University, and to collaborate with her on a number of other volunteer projects, and to have a lot of fun along the way. It's hard to convey what it means to be chairman and CEO of PepsiCo, because I think it's hard for most of us to even fathom the scale of that corporation. She has led it for over a decade. PepsiCo employs more than 260,000 employees and makes hundreds of foods and beverages that are enjoyed 1 billion times a day in more than 200 countries. Fortune magazine, that second alma mater of Hollins trustee emerita extraordinaire Wyndham Robertson, annually publishes an issue of the magazine with a list of the most powerful women in the world. Indra has been included 18 of the 20 years the list has been in existence, and how she has deserved that recognition. She is a true visionary. She inherited a company already so successful with a wide portfolio of beverages and foods. But Indra looked into the future and realized that even the best companies couldn't rest on their laurels and needed to be innovators and needed to go beyond what had been their comfort zone. In her first year as CEO, she delivered a major address that was evolutionary, many thought revolutionary, for a major company. In her speech, Indra declared that business performance was not the only measure of a company's success. In the 21st century, being a great company meant being a good company too. A company that not only delivers top-tier financial results and is a good place for employees, but worked in ways that are responsive to the needs of the world around us. Indra christened this new philosophy performance with purpose. In her own words, quote, "Performance with purpose wasn't envisioned as simply some sort of corporate social responsibility initiatives. It wasn't about changing the way we spent money. It was about changing the way we make it." And that's exactly what PepsiCo has done. Today, PepsiCo's portfolio also includes a decided emphasis on expanding nutritional offerings. Many of us are benefiting it from Naked Juice, Huma from Sabra, Quaker Oats family of products, and so much more. In addition, with Indra at the helm, the company has become an environmental leader, working to improve water and energy efficiency and to reduce packaging materials and waste. And under Indra's leadership, the company is investing in employees, but also communities, and specifically women. By 2025, PepsiCo will have invested $100 million to benefit more than 12 million women and girls around the world. No wonder Pareena wanted her to be with us today. So that's Indra, the CEO, brilliant and visionary. But I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my friend as Indra the person. She is a Renaissance woman. She is a prodigious reader and an amazing ballroom dancer, a skill that she somehow found time to take up just since becoming CEO. And she knows more lyrics to more Motown hits than even I do. We've had sing-alongs where she has proved the point. So I'd like to leave you with just one story that says to me so much about Indra as a person and as a leader. To give me a little background for the students, most managers undertake annual evaluation of their employees and share the feedback with each employee about how they're doing. It's sort of the workplace equivalent of a report card. Indra does that, of course, but she initiated something that I had never heard of, and I think very few had imagined. During a trip to visit her own mom in India in 2006, she recognized that parents of executives and other employees often don't have a clue about what their son or daughter is doing for the company, and they weren't thanked for how those parents' sacrifices had contributed to the children's success. So Indra came home and sat down and wrote individual letters to the parents of key senior staff, thanking them for the gift of their child and outlining the ways the parents would be so proud of what their son or daughter was contributing to PepsiCo's success. That, in my mind, sets a new CEO standard for performance with purpose. Friends and family of Hollins, it gives me great pleasure to welcome this special woman to our special university on this very special day. Indra Nui.
Thank you, Linda. It's an honor and delight to be here for this special event in the life of your university. I'm particularly honored to salute another daughter of India, Pareena, and I share the good fortune of having come to this country on scholarship to study. And we both have had a string of opportunities that would be only imaginable here in the United States. We both have had the chance to learn and to lead. My congratulations to you, Pareena, and to everyone in the Hollins family. You know, Daniel Webster once said about his own alma mater, Dartmouth, he said, "It's a small college, yet there are those who love it. It's a small college, yet there are those that love it." And I know the same is true right here in Hollins. But I must confess that until I was preparing for this day, I had no idea how much your graduates have influenced my life and the life of this country. When I arrived here in the late 1970s, Hollins graduate Annie Dillard's Pulitzer Prize-winning book, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, was in all the bookstores. And while I regularly watched CBS Nightly News, I didn't know that the amazing coverage of Tiananmen Square and much later 9/11 and so much more was produced by your graduate and trustee, Susie Redpath, the amazing Susie Redpath. I certainly knew that the most recent poet laureate of the United States was Natasha Trethewey. But again, I must confess, I did not make the connection to Hollins. And then there's Emily's List, the organization that has spent the last 30 years advocating for women who seek political office. I had no idea that its founder was a Hollins woman. The truth is, I could go on and on with a roster of amazing women I now know were educated in this special place and have been so consequential to our times. Bravo to Hollins, and congratulations once again to Pareena on joining an institution with such a distinguished history. However, I'd be remiss not to recognize that a presidential inauguration is more than a celebration of a new leader. It's also a moment where it's an affirmation and renewal for the institution. So this morning, I want to talk about the importance of Hollins in meeting the needs of the nation, of our nation, and the world. When I became CEO of PepsiCo more than 11 years ago, I gave the famous Performance with Purpose speech that Linda referred to. I was convinced then that PepsiCo, or any company hoping to succeed in the 21st century, needed a mission where we not only served our shareholders, but dedicated ourselves to the larger purpose of serving our communities, our employees, and our societies. For 175 years, Hollins has, in its own way, embraced the idea of performance with purpose. Your purpose has always been clear and steady. You are devoted to the elevation of the liberal arts and the education of women. This is a place where women are the singular focus of attention, in the classroom, on the field, in the lab, at the highest levels of administration. Virginia Woolf was partially right when she wrote that a woman needs a room of her own. What Hollins has shown is that women deserve a campus of their own. But what about performance? My advice to those who love and lead Hollins is to think ambitiously about the performance you deliver and how it can be even better. Because if there's anything I've learned at the helm of this large global enterprise, it is that innovation is essential, that even the most outstanding institutions cannot afford to rest on their laurels, particularly at a time when a wave of megatrends is reshaping our world, from digital innovation to the rise of millennials. When I was on the board of Yale, the trustees held a retreat, and we invited Harvard's Clayton Christensen, who's a leading thinker on innovation. But as you know, Professor Christensen is not one of those Cassandras prophesizing the demise of higher education. In fact, in his book, The Innovative University, he argues that, and I quote, "The ideal of the traditional university, with its mix of intellectual breadth and depth, its diverse campus social milieu, and its life-changing professors, is needed now more than ever." Nevertheless, he challenged us to look to the future, pointing out that universities, and I quote, "trim but rarely make the hard trade-offs." Trim but rarely make the hard trade-offs. Nor, he underscored in his book, do they readily reinvent their curriculum to better prepare students for the increasing demands of the world of work. So the question is, how will Hollins reinvent its own curriculum and reimagine its own institution? How will this university, its trustees, its president, its faculty, its students, respond to the changes sweeping across our world and the new demands of our time? I certainly don't have all the answers, and if I did, every dean and provost in America would be beating down my door. However, I have a few thoughts drawn from my experience in the world of business. First, a focus on the consumer. You know, at PepsiCo, we have to focus on the consumer all the time. But I think that's what universities need to do too. What are your students gaining from their experience here that will equip them to succeed not only in their careers, but in every aspect of life? What kind of skills and education do they need to thrive and contribute to our world? That's the first focus. Second, as you all know, the pace of digital innovation is constantly accelerating at a dizzying pace. We're experiencing at every aspect of PepsiCo too. But rather than shrinking from this profound change, I encourage you to welcome it. Embrace it as an exciting opportunity, a chance to improve the learning experience by leveraging the most cutting-edge technologies. For too long, many have thought of online education as a dilution of the experience. And yet, there are myriad examples of how students can learn more effectively with technology-enhanced but faculty-led course material. So don't be afraid, dive right in. Third, at PepsiCo, we are constantly looking how we can create value for our shareholders and all of our stakeholders. That's something the university can do too. Look, I'm a champion of the liberal arts. Great liberal arts universities like Hollins contribute to the strength of free society, molding inquisitive minds, and keeping democracy vibrant. At the same time, more and more universities are being asked to demonstrate a link between the education they offer and the jobs they deliver for their graduates. That's something Hollins can explore, something you can even lean into given your impressive roster of alumni. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, embrace innovation. You know, Christensen defines two types of innovations: sustaining innovation and disruptive innovation. Sustaining innovations are those incremental year-to-year improvements that ensure that a product or service is better than what was available previously. Disruptive innovation, on the other hand, describes a product or service that helps create a new market and eventually pushes out bigger, well-known competitors. Think about it and ask yourself, which disruptive innovations are going to propel Hollins into the future? The good news is that you have the chance to innovate from a position of strength, to build on this school's history of thinking and acting with an eye towards the future. It's a tradition that began with Charles Lewis Koch and his audacious idea of creating an institute of higher learning for women at a time when no others existed in the South. A tradition of innovation that continued into the 20th century when this university launched one of the first ever junior year abroad programs and established a master's in creative writing that became one of the best in the country, a tradition that continues today. It's now up to you to reclaim that heritage, to reimagine how you can serve women with even greater success. It's a daunting task, but if there's anything I now know about Hollins, it's that you have a tradition of excellence. You're always up for a challenge. And you're not afraid to try new things, embracing Annie Dillard's maxim that courage cannot be tested cautiously. Courage cannot be tested cautiously. So as you welcome a new president and begin a new chapter in the history of this institution, I challenge you to summon all your strength. Harness all your ingenuity. Channel all the energy and spirit and courage it takes to dress up in a crazy costume and scale the mountain of Tinker Mountain. If you do, I know you will succeed. You will thrive, and you will help future generations of women reach even greater heights. Pareena, I wish you the best of luck on your presidency, and thank you all for inviting me to be part of this incredibly historic celebration. Thank you.
Hey. Members of the Hollins Board of Trustees, Pareena, alumni, distinguished guests, fellow delegates from other institutions, Hollins faculty, staff, and students. I'm honored to have the opportunity to join you today as you celebrate the inauguration of your 12th president, Dr. Pareena Lawrence. I want to compliment the Hollins community on your exceptional choice, as I've known for a long time two very important facts. The first is that Pareena Lawrence was going to be a college president. The second is that she was going to be a president at Women's College. As a graduate and proud alumna of another women's college, I had the distinct pleasure about a year and a half ago of hearing Pareena's palpable excitement over the phone the night when she first visited with the Hollins Search Committee. Hollins had reached into Pareena's heart and own life story as access to a high-quality liberal women's education quite literally changed her own life. I had the even greater pleasure of telling Pareena, "I told you so," when she accepted the Hollins presidency. Others will speak more to Pareena's fit and vision for Hollins, but my task is to let you know a little bit about the Pareena Lawrence I know. We've been friends for 20 plus years, ever since we got to know each other as two young assistant professors in kindred fields at the University of Minnesota Morris. I've known the boys, Aaron and Joshua, since they were born, functioning at different times as babysitter, honorary aunt, basketball opponent, and superfan. I've known Todd just as long and appreciate his dry humor nonstop for the last 20 years. I speak on their behalf, as well as Padma, Pratap, and Sonali, Pareena's parents and sister. Pareena's parents and sister can't be here in person, but they are here in spirit. In their honor, and in honor of the importance of education for women throughout the world today, I'm going to ask you to join me in a class exercise in congratulating Pareena in Hindi. I'll say it once and then ask you to join me in saying it. Badhai ho, Pareena. Badhai ho, Pareena. So who is the Pareena Lawrence I know? The Pareena I know is filled with hope and belief in the world's possibilities. Behind the razor-sharp brain of the trained economist, workaholic, whose field says people only act to pursue their own goals, is a woman with a trust and a belief in the goodness of people that transcends national boundaries. Travel back with me to the late summer of 1989 and the wide open fields surrounding a small crop duster airport near Purdue University. It's rural enough so you can see the stars, and you can see the stars because it's the middle of the night. And an airplane delivers 21-year-old Pareena Gupta to Purdue to begin her doctoral studies. She gets off the plane, and no one's waiting for her, or even knew she was coming on that flight. Unlike New Delhi, there are neither taxis nor taxi stands for that matter. Pareena, being Pareena, was completely nonplussed, proceeds to open a phone book and call a random number in the phone book. Surprisingly, someone answered in the dead of night, and that stranger came and got Pareena and brought her to campus. And we all know the rest of the story. Some might say that she was lucky or courageous, but Pareena's take is that moment revealed to her the inherent goodness of the people in this new land she was coming to. Pareena believes in possibilities and trusts in the world's goodness. So don't be fooled. Pareena's tough as nails. I work for her, I know. Incredibly strategic and can fit every economist stereotype when necessary. But there's more to her than that. In a time when the world seems fixated on constraints, distrust, and suspicions of others' motives, Pareena's belief in the world's possibilities are part of what makes her special. The other thing for you to know is that if you ever need a ride late at night coming into Roanoke, call her. She might still be paying that moment forward. I promised her I wouldn't tear up, so. The Pareena I know is also incredibly generous of spirit and of Todd's cooking skills. For as long as I have known her, whether at Morris or at Augustana, Pareena has made a tradition of holding Thanksgiving dinner for international students, international faculty, and anyone else who wanted to join, whether they were a Thanksgiving orphan or not. No one was ever expected to bring anything, and there was no work agenda. People would watch TV, play with the boys, eat too much. Todd and the boys, of course, did all the cooking. She did this when she was a young assistant professor, and she's still doing that as provost at Augustana. A couple of years ago, I asked her if she still did it. She said yes, and that it's one of her favorite holidays of the year, precisely because it allows her to stay connected to those whose experiences she once had. I have many other stories of that spirit of generosity, her willing offer to drive people who didn't know how to drive places at all hours of the night, her willing offer of Aaron, Josh, and Todd's snow shoveling, tax expertise, and grass cutting skills, as do all of her friends. But my message here is twofold. First, Pareena is generous. And second, as successful as she is, Pareena never forgets what it's like to not know where one fits, to be the other, to sit on the outside looking in, to not have a home to go into. With Grace and Todd's cooking, she will bring this same humble spirit and open heart to Hollins. Last but not least, the Pareena I know is the furthest thing from self-important. She knows her own imperfections, and she laughs at herself easily. She readily acknowledges that her desire for exceptional outcomes sometimes may lead to mishaps, like the infamous Augustana Provost Office rafting retreat. Hollins Cabinet, see me or the Augie folks for more details. When she forgot Aaron's birthday one year, she didn't deny the mistake. Rather, she showed her incredible ability to delegate, and with mischief in her eyes, quickly announced it was now my job to remember it. So I faithfully text her every year. Erin, you're welcome. When she was accused of working too much by several of her friends, she very seriously and proudly announced to me that she had a hobby, shopping, and how hard she was working to do it well, and could we go look at her closet so she could prove me that. She believes in fun and mischief, and as the boys and her former students, many of whom are watching this also will attest, is incredibly tolerant as long as people are learning and growing. Somewhere on the web, there are pictures of Pareena teaching class in a suit with her hair painted maroon and gold after our Morris football Cougars won their first football game after 4+ years. Somewhere else, there's a great picture of her while pregnant with Aaron, flat on her back in a giant snowdrift and unable to get up. She's laughing very hard. The Pareena I know was amused, not angry, when Aaron, in toddler stage, threw her car keys into the vent so she couldn't go teach. She was most proud of the fact that it was his imaginary friend Charlie and not her son, and she wanted us all to know it wasn't Aaron, it was Charlie. Joshua doesn't know it, but she was actually proud of his experiment with projectile silverware in the fan, though glad she missed implementation. So yes, Pareena is now president of Hollins, but as you can see, she's still very rooted in herself, her family, and the joy of life. I've talked enough, but I hope that these comments help you understand why I consider Pareena my sister in spirit, and why I'm so happy for Hollins and Pareena that you have found each other.
Good morning. Goodness, Paula, you're a tough act to follow. Paula has illuminated so many of the reasons why the Presidential Search Committee was so thrilled with Pareena. When her first interview with the search committee concluded and Pareena had left the room, one of our numbers simply said, "Wow, she's the real deal." And now we know she is. Pareena is an academic who had won the major teaching award at the Morris campus and then was recognized as Teacher of the Year for the entire Minnesota university system. Pareena is one of those rare individuals who excels both as a scholar teacher and as an administrator. We were so impressed by the strategic planning process she led as Augustana's provost, where, with her faculty colleagues, the university embarked on ambitious academic and institutional objectives. But we were equally impressed by her character and style of leadership. We love how Pareena had office hours in the dining room so students could seek her out. And we were impressed by Pareena's reputation of being transparent with faculty about decisions, even those she and they knew would be unpopular. Pareena is a leader of great integrity, compassion, and humor. And I mean, who wouldn't want to go shopping with her? And it was clear that she had an irrepressible optimism that is needed in this demanding age for higher education. And we were, and all are, moved by her personal story. The journey from her home country of India to Hollins never ceases to amaze and impress. How her parents defied societal norms that limited the advancement of women and ingeniously conceived of a way to get young Pareena into a highly selective all-girls school. How the educational experience became the most pivotal of her life. Those years in the girls' school bolstered her self-confidence, encouraged her to take risks, and grew her grit and resilience. And that girls' school instilled a deep appreciation for the value of single-sex education, and we know that allowed us to persuade her to come to Hollins. We have been impressed with Pareena's first month as president. She already has become very popular with students and alumni, and she's respected by all. Her energy, her wisdom, her intrepid spirit, and her ambitions for Hollins, coupled with her deep appreciation for the liberal arts, are exactly what Hollins needs right now. Let me conclude with a story from the end of the presidential search. We were having our final interview with Pareena in Washington, D.C., where honestly, we were courting her as much as evaluating her. Toward the end of the conversation, Pareena made a casual comment, saying that it was sometimes hard to operate as a 5'1" provost. As soon as the committee members were by ourselves, a trustee said, "I never realized in all the time we spent with Pareena, she was 5'1". I think she is a giant." And that captures it all. Pareena, your trustees and everyone on this beloved campus is indebted to you. Thank you for becoming the 12th president of our Hollins.
We now turn to the formal investiture. Pareena, will you please come forward? The Board of Trustees has no more important duty than selecting the leader of the university, and we are simply thrilled, Pareena, that you have accepted the invitation to lead our Hollins. So would you please repeat after me? I do solemnly pledge to serve this institution faithfully, impartially, and justly.
I do solemnly pledge to serve this institution faithfully, impartially, and justly.
To perform the duties of the office of President to the best of my ability.
To perform the duties of the office of President to the best of my ability.
And to work steadfastly with humanity and humility and courage to advance Hollins in the years ahead.
And to work steadfastly with humanity and humility and courage to advance Hollins in the years ahead.
By the power invested me as chair of the Hollins University Board of Trustees, I formally install you, Pareena Gupta Lawrence, as the 12th president of Hollins University.
Okay, so I can tell you, I can feel the burden of my responsibilities quite literally with the weight of this glorious medallion around my neck. You can actually prove it. I can prove it to you later. Seriously though, it is wonderful to stand here and look over this welcoming assembly. To representatives from other colleges and universities, foundations and organizations, and our neighbors from the Roanoke region, thank you so much for coming out to our university today. Your presence is an honor to me and a reminder of the ties that Hollins has with other institutions entrusted with building a stronger society and region. My very special thanks goes out to our students. I love you. Faculty, staff, alumni, current and former trustees, past presidents of Hollins, and friends of the university. You have all welcomed me so warmly and wholeheartedly. And you have made me even more aware of the preciousness of my charge as your president. And I hope you will understand that I need to give a special shout out to my family and friends whose love has brought me to this occasion and whose support will sustain me in the years ahead. My love and gratitude goes out to you all. And I recognize that I have indeed been blessed beyond all measure. Today is not only the presidential inauguration, but also the day that commemorates our founders. Today we celebrate the long and rich history of Hollins University, now in its 176th year of trailblazing among institutions of higher learning. And we seek to honor all those who worked to establish the institution in its early decades. Charles Lewis Koch led Hollins and devoted his life to the higher education of women during an era when few women imagined earning a college degree. And with his wife, daughters, sons, brother-in-law, all working with him, Hollins was decidedly a family affair. His grandchildren continued the tradition along with relatives by marriage who taught, worked, and attended Hollins. we are delighted to have several members of the Koch family with us here today. At the same time, we recognize and honor members of what was once known as the Old Fields community. These men and women, some of whom worked as enslaved people until the end of the Civil War in 1865, built and maintained our campus facilities and took care of Hollins students and faculty during our early days. Most did not choose this work on their own volition, and their contributions went unrecognized for far too long. Today, in the more expansive commemoration of our Founders' Day that my predecessor, President Emerita Nancy Gray, initiated, we welcome members of the Hollins community who are descended from those who provided foundational contributions to our campus to her infancy. Can we all stand to recognize our founders and their families today? Thank you. It takes a lot of people to bring us to significant moments like this one. We are all continuously engaged in the process of becoming our best selves. And I want to thank my extended family, friends, colleagues, mentors, and former students for helping to make me a better version of myself. Your involvement and support in my life are a true blessing. Many of you are here today, and others are here in spirit. As you watch this event that's being webcast worldwide. Hello, India and Singapore. I know that my journey was made possible by the support and encouragement of others, especially my family. I would like to acknowledge my mom in particular, who let me recently know that I keep talking about my dad in all my interviews and talks, as if he alone did all the parental heavy lifting. Mom, I know that you were always there, behind the scenes, clearing the way for me in large ways and small. I remember the many times you hid freshly cooked food for your 2 daughters so we did not have to eat the leftovers after the men had eaten. You always figured out a way, Mom, to outsmart patriarchy. So here's to you, Mom. Despite not studying past high school, you are the sharpest and smartest woman I know. Dad, I love you too. And then there are Todd and Aaron and Josh, my sons and husband. Your love, support, and cooking skills have made it possible for me to stand here today, and above all, has kept me grounded. No matter what position in life you reach, when your child yells in the morning, "Mom, I can't find my socks. What did you do with them?" So we go sock hunting before anyone can leave the house that morning. No matter what major speech you must give or important decision you must make, everyone needs socks on their feet. And somehow that small detail grounds you in what really matters and recenters you in this universe. These first few moments of this talk have been intensely personal for me, speaking about my life and the precious people in my life. I want to now speak about another life, the life of the mind, and the life of a Hollins University community. As you know, I am an economist by training, but I am a university president by choice. Those of us who engage in the discipline of economics today are more often more comfortable with equations, statistics, and numbers than we are with words. Modern economists do not typically concern themselves with metaphysical matters, the questions of spirit and soul. We have long thought that what mattered was to quantify information and create economic models that would promote tangible economic growth and development nationally and locally. But in many ways, we were and are short-sighted. Short-sighted because we overlooked the fact that every number, every demand curve, every statistical report on intensive margins is nothing but an abstraction, a mere reflection of human life and of the infinite series of decisions we make that constitute our numbered trips around the sun. We were late to the realization that we don't move the demand curve by moving the supply curve. We move the demand curve by moving the hearts and minds, dreams and aspirations of the people around us. Don't get me wrong. I firmly believe that the discipline of economics is essential to understanding the world and how it operates. But I know that it cannot address several of the world's most pressing questions and their immeasurable answers. We are more than the sum of our parts. Thankfully, Hollins and other institutions of higher learning, grounded in the tradition of the liberal arts, have never lost sight of what is truly important. Together, we all have the responsibility to help challenge and educate our students so that they can understand their role in our larger society and become drivers of positive change within their sphere of influence. That search for authentic purpose is ultimately what a Hollins education is all about, and why I am so proud to be part of this mission. One that is devoted to women, and we know that the need for women's leadership has never been more important. I have personally experienced the transformational power of an all-women's education, and it has helped me become whom I am today. Ever since I was a young girl, I always wanted to change the world. It was indeed fortuitous when years later I accepted a faculty position, which in my mind was just a temporary assignment for me, but it turned out to be my life's calling. Just a few months into my new role, I quickly realized that preparing the next generation of leaders and change makers who will go on and leave their own impact on this world is much more impactful in magnitude than taking this work on change on my own. This is what we economists call the multiplier effect, the power we have as educators. Indeed, I am so grateful to devote my life to education, preparing you to lead lives of consequence and change the world within your sphere of influence. Many of us can quote or misquote Henry David Thoreau's famous aphorism, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, but it is a characteristic of wisdom not to do desperate things." Few are aware that this maxim comes from an essay in Walden entitled Economy. And fewer still know the argument that surrounds this conclusion. Thoreau was not speaking of desperation in the physical sense that may be caused by a calamity or because of poverty. To the contrary, he was speaking of desperation of people who don't have to worry about physical shelter or the next meal. Those who are reasonably comfortable in life, most of us. We know that it is always safer to worry about our next paycheck than the next generation. It is always tempting to stand back rather than lean in. It's always easier to keep your own counsel than to speak out. It's always easier to keep your head down than to lift your eyes up. Acts of quiet desperation. But when the psalmist urges us to look up at the mountains in search of help, levavi oculis, we lift up our eyes. We are the only things those pilgrims will see. We are their hope, and it is through our hands that God's work is accomplished. Since I arrived at Hollins, I have witnessed firsthand an unwavering dedication to make our society and world a better place for all. I have seen how we intentionally are developing and equipping future leaders, creators, policymakers, and citizens who understand their role in society, their social responsibility, and the need to serve the communities that they are a part of. During spring break last year, 4 Hollins students embarked on a trip of a lifetime, a 12-day hike in South American Andean mountains on the Cordillera Huayhuash. Many of you may be familiar with that. It's one of the top 10 trekking circuits in the world. Unfortunately, when they arrived, they encountered a nightmare. What happened in Peru when they landed was widespread flooding and massive landslides had devastated the country's northern region and blocked all access to Huayhuash. A lot of people would have surrendered to Thoreau's quiet desperation and booked the first flight back home. But our students' reaction? We are here, how can we help out? Those 4 students subsequently provided crucial aid in some of the country's hardest hit areas. For them, it was a life-changing experience. And their story isn't an isolated one. Another student is working to foster greater awareness of the issues that people living with disabilities face and is taking her activism to a statewide level through her appointment to the Virginia Board of People with Disabilities. And a number of Hollins students are actively working with the Small Cities Initiative, an innovative partnership between Hollins and Virginia Tech, whose goal is to study issues of resilience among small urban cities across the United States, Russia, and Germany. Hollins students are making a real-world impact in creative ways and on progressive fronts. They are not leading lives of quiet desperation. Our students today are continuing to fulfill the promise that extends back through decades of Hollins history. Nearly 80 years ago, Mildred Persinger, class of 1939, who turns 100 years old this year, embarked on a career working for women's rights and human rights, racial justice, and sustainable development. As an organizer and activist, she served as a member of the National Board of the YWCA and worked with the National Council of Negro Women on the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voter Registration Act. In Mexico in 1975, she headed the planning and management of the first NGO forum that ran concurrently with the first UN World Women's Conference. It was the start of the worldwide women's movement, with issues on the table such as women's rights and security, the world economy, South African apartheid, and conflict in the Middle East. Mildred continued to work on those same issues in a 30-year-long career as the world's YWCA representative to the United Nations. Mildred Persinger did not lead a life of quiet desperation. I could go on and on. Every day, our students and alumni proudly act upon the philosophy demonstrated by our students who went to Peru. We are here. How can we help out? They are working through community outreach and advocacy, locally, nationally, and globally. They are building upon and making significant contributions in every sphere of life, from the political to the academic, from the corporate to the volunteer arenas. As Jane Goodall stated, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. The wisdom that Thoreau mentions, the wisdom to not accept the status quo, but to actively choose to make a positive difference, is here at Hollins. Thanks to the remarkable faculty, the hardworking and creative staff, and the devoted alumni and trustees and friends of the university, the education our students receive at Hollins, inside and outside the classroom, helps them develop the wisdom to lead lives of consequence. At Hollins, as 176 years of our forebears have shown, we will continue to reject choosing lives of quiet desperation, not because it's easy, but because we know no other way. We are called to a different sort of life, a life of noisy exuberance, a life of joy and hope, and a life worth celebrating, not because of our financial success, but because we are making a positive difference in our own lives, a difference in the lives that we have touched in our lifetime, and a difference in the lives of the thousands of students yet to come to Hollins, whose lives will be enriched and strengthened by the choices we make right here today. As Indra challenged us in her address, to thrive into the future, we must answer the question, how will Hollins reinvent and reimagine herself? Which disruptive innovation are we going to embrace? I want you to join me to build a thriving Hollins of tomorrow, so we can continue the noble purpose of educating women who lead lives of consequence. By what Hollins can do, and must do, and will do, today, tomorrow, together. Thank you again so much for entrusting me with this precious, precious opportunity. Thank you.
G. Lawrence, the 12th President. Seeking divine blessing, we trust in the grace and promise that have led us to this new beginning. Stepping forward in courage, with vision, and with faith, may we ever keep our eyes lifted. Forgetting not our history, nor being limited by it, may we endeavor individually and communally to uphold our values, to be intentional, to be open-minded, to act with integrity, to be kind and respectful, to value diversity and inclusion. Seeking meaning and purpose in our service for the greater good, may Hollins always inspire us to live lives of consequence as we support our shared mission. Lavavi Oculus.